Work hard and you will be rewarded. That's basically the middle class mantra, isn't it? That at the end of the day, if you just put in enough effort, you'll be rich, successful, and the envy of your peers.
Nobody is perfect. 没有人是完美的，社会不可能完美，因为社会是由所有不完美的人组织在一起。你的职责就是比别人多勤奋一点，多努力一点，多有一点理想，世界才会好起来。
Pretty inspiring, huh? Jack Ma is, after all, China's richest man, a prime example for persistence and determination, which explains why he apparently believes that if you're still poor at 35, you deserve it. Problem is, this school of thought perpetuates the myth that people who are not successful or rich are lazy or lack ambition. But as Rutger Bregman, a Dutch historian, puts it, poverty is not a lack of character. Poverty is a lack of cash. Think about it. Why do poor people save less, not finish school, do drugs more often? It's not because they're less ambitious. It's because their basic needs are not met, because they lack certain opportunities and privileges that others have. If you could just get off your middle-income high horses and imagine the economic stress of, for instance, being young and homeless and sleeping on the streets of KL even though you have a job because you're sending more than half your salary to your family back in your hometown. This is not to say that there isn't any opportunity at all for socio-economic mobility. Khazanah Research Institute released a publication late last year that reportedly said that 1 in 2 children born to parents aged 35 and above between 1980 and 1995 now earn more than their parents. Its research showed that 74% of children raised by parents in the poorest 20% of our population are now in the second poorest 20%. In fact, 11% of them have risen to the wealthiest 20%. Encouraging numbers. But still, it also means the other 1 in 2 children, the other 50%, are not making more than what their parents made. They're still stuck in the same income group. And it's not necessarily because the other half isn't as ambitious as their sibling. Even Warren Buffett recognizes that while he's extremely good at allocating capital, his ability to use that talent is completely dependent on the society he was born into. In his own words, he says, if I had been born into a tribe of hunters, this talent of mine would be pretty worthless. I can't run very fast, I'm not particularly strong, I'd probably end up as some wild animal's dinner. Which is why Rutger Bregman is a huge advocate of universal basic income. Basic income being a system in which all citizens of a country receive a set amount of money on a regular basis from the government, regardless of wealth and income, regardless of whether an individual has a job or not. Obviously, not everyone will be on board with the idea, and there are definitely cases of people exploiting benefits, but to a significant degree, basic income could work wonders. For instance, several years ago, a group of homeless men in London were given £3,000 each to spend however they wished. Here's Bregman telling how the experiment went.
Is that the men turned out to be extremely frugal with the money they received. At the end of the first year, only £800 had been spent on average. And where did they spend it on? Well, a phone, or a passport, or a dictionary. Each of the men had his own idea of what would be best for him. Moreover, a year after the experiment had started, the impossible had happened. 7 out of 13 of the men had a roof above their head. 2 more had applied for housing. Some of the men took gardening classes. Another learned how to cook, for example. They visited their children again. And all of the men made plans for the future. It sort of seemed as if the cash had empowered them.
The issue, however, is how to finance the program. Bill Gates, who's also an advocate of basic income, doesn't think today's governments can afford universal basic income right now. He says even the US isn't rich enough to allow people not to work, and that for now it's more realistic to allow low-income families that maintain steady jobs to get money from the government instead of paying tax. Former Greek Finance Minister Yanis Varoufakis has an alternative approach, a universal basic dividend. He's proposing that a percentage of shares of every corporation going for an IPO goes into a trust fund, where dividends amass and are then distributed to all. I don't know what corporations have to say about that, but it's certainly a proposal worth considering. Whatever solution we ultimately choose, though, it's worth remembering that poverty is stressful and depressive. It's not about the lack of ambition, so the poor don't deserve to be demonized for it. Just saying.